One of the ways in which I don't know if this will serve as some kind of solution or at least some idea, reference the NSAS protests that seem to happen spontaneously all over Nigeria. Now, most of them were mobilized for the protests through unconventional platforms like the social media. I don't know if that would be useful to government. Right. But then the question here is that it's at this same time that there are talks about regulating the same platforms through which these guys mobilize themselves, organize themselves, and all of that. So, of course, there's good reason for that in the light of fake news and all those things that the Ministry of Information has been talking about. So what's the balancing act? What's the plan for a balancing act now, seeing that the youth used it to mobilize themselves productively, and the federal government is talking about regulating the same platforms?
I think let me first bring a global perspective to this. I think each one of us, beyond the youth, globally, both in politics, in economy, in education, every one of us benefits from the internet in terms of the social media platforms that we have, in terms of digital technology. We have e-commerce, we have e-education, we have e-health, we have e-government. So everybody benefits from it. The fact that our youth used it to mobilize is commendable. But also they talk about regulating the social media. Has been a talk that has been around for a while. In other countries, we've seen other countries take, practical steps in that direction. This country has not done that. Even during the NSAS protest, the country had an option. The country never went for that final option. There was no time. The cyberspace was shut down. People were still able to connect themselves, use their social media platforms. And that shows a government that is committed to the rights of freedom and association of every citizen of this country. But also, the question of fake news is bothersome, not just for Nigeria, but for every part of the world. For us, the protest brought home the dangers of fake news. Recall, several months back, Nobel laureate winner, Professor Wole Soyinka, he said fake news is like the bomb that can destroy the world. And he's sure that that fake news that will destroy the world will start from Nigeria. That's from Professor Wole Soyinka. Very predictive and insightful. But also, of course, you see, the talks around regulation. Of course, we have a National Assembly. It will have to go through the normal processes. We'll have a constitution. They will have to make sure that it does not violate certain provisions of the constitutions that has to do with freedom of expression. But also, where you have fake news destroying lives, the government has a responsibility to make sure there's some form of control. It is not a censorship, but some level of control. Even in broadcasting, even in journalism, we have some regulation. And I think that whatever is going to happen around the social media will be along the laws of our country. And I trust that the National Assembly will do right by every single Nigerian and will be guided properly by the Nigerian Constitution.